Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Prime Live. And this evening, I'm delighted to be joined by a very special guest all the way from Senegal, who spends a lot of time in France. Abdou Samb is a distinguished mathematician, engineer, and international recognized advisor specializing in public-private partnerships and investor attraction. Abdou Samb, thank you so much for joining us on INX Prime.
Alaikum salam rahmatullah. Thank you for inviting me, Mohammed, and it's a pleasure.
Before we go into the nitty-gritty, let me just ask you, how has your visit to South Africa been?
Oh, it was a very fruitful trip, interesting trip. I spent 10 days here, have a lot of good meetings, work with the C20 in the program we are working on, and also, yeah, it's interesting to be in this country, you know, because when you are in South Africa, you just have the feeling that you are dealing with the world, that we are not dealing only with Africa. And yeah, very good trip.
Yeah, South Africa does have a. That's why they call us the Rainbow Nation. I think it's a mixture of everything in this country. Mind you, we do have a lot of our own issues in the country, and I think having academics like you coming to the country and trying to help us and help Africa become a better place is really important.
Yes, it is. Africa is an interesting continent because it's a continent of paradox. Uh, the greatest strength of this continent is his people. In the same time, the greatest challenge of the continent is the leadership. But when it's becoming interesting, it's uh, we, African population, we we don't make our leader accountable of their policies and of their acts. That's why it's very interesting because we are one of the largest population in the world. The leadership is not that perfect, but we are not able to hold our leader accountable. It's very interesting.
Speaking about holding leadership accountable, I think something very important that I know you are passionate about is the role of civil society. South Africa, we do have a very strong civil society that tries to hold leadership accountable. We've seen many cases where government have been held accountable by our civil society. Rightly or wrongly, that's a question for another day. But based on my experience previously in Africa itself, civil society seems to be playing a back seat role. How important is it to get more civil society involved to get this accountability going and to make Africa a better continent?
This idea of civil society is really important, because it's the idea that we start from Aristotle, in the Greek period. And I guess one of the most interesting definition of the civil society, from my point of view, it's from Jean-Jacques Rousseau. As you know, I'm in French and I speak French very well. Uh, Please bear with me because I used to speak French more than English. With the book of Jean-Jacques Rousseau, Le Contrat Social, the social contract, and he's describing civil society as the way for the population, or is the way to the popular sovereignty, meaning that the civil society is really key because it's the voice of the people. And South Africa is really interesting. Of course, South Africa is the most advanced country of Africa, and we must take example of South Africa in terms of civil society and develop civil society all around Africa to make sure that the people, the population have voice to challenge the leader and to make sure that they are here for the interest of the people, for the interest for the country. And it's something really key and really important. And uh, if it's on the back seat, it's a mistake. It's not the right seat for it. The,
Definitely. I think having civil society in the backseat, as you mentioned, it is a mistake. Speaking about Africa, before we went live on air, we actually spoke about the importance of Africa becoming more self sufficient. And instead of being a market of consumers, let us become manufacturers and let us be making money off our natural resources. As we know, Africa is probably one of the continents with the most amount of natural resources. We've got gold, we've got platinum, we've got minerals throughout Africa, we've got oil. But somehow Africa's always been left behind when it comes to sharing in its wealth with its own people. This could be also because of the leadership and corruption in Africa, but I think we need to move away that Africa is a corrupt place. I think that narrative needs to change. It's a very comes across as a very racist narrative that if it's in Africa or if it's in Asia, it's corrupt. How do we get Africa to become more self-sufficient?
New African innovation, new AI. I want you to keep this word, Mohammed, please, because you are going to hear about this word. It's a concept that I've developed. I'm working in an MOU with one of the prominent university in Africa to all the Center for New African Innovation. What is about this new African innovation? It's about the perfect alchemy between human, environment, and technology. Why I want to push this concept? Because I think this concept is one of the only way to make Africa switch from the consumer market to the producer. We are going to be 2.5 billion people in 2050, meaning that we have the market. As you mentioned, we have the resources. And our youth, the African youth, as you, as me, have many of us, we are well educated. We are educated. We get educated from the most, the biggest university in the world, meaning that we have also the capability to develop our own product for our own market. And you make me think about the Professor Masawi, who said that you can take from Western, but if you take from Western, you have to take the logical and the rationality going with the product. Meaning we have to have our own product coming from our own innovation. And this innovation, compared to the innovation of the Western world, could be more human and more sustainable. Sustainable is really important in our continent because we are a really sustainable continent. You know, our footprint carbon is low because we respect our environment, we respect our nature because we consider ourselves a part of the nature. And it's one of the biggest challenge our leaders have. It's one of the biggest challenge our civil society have. How can we catalyze all this energy of the youth, of the woman, of all those African people to build product for the African market because the market is here.
Unbelievable. I think having this technology and what you've just mentioned to us now, I think it's so important for us as we try and move Africa out of being a continent reliant on aid, um, reliant on tariffs, reliant on so many other things. My final question to you, as we're quickly running out of time, and my producers are going to start shouting at me in my ears very soon. My final question to you is: we are not in a vacuum in the world. We live in a global market. It's a global economy. The role that Africa can play in making friendships and making good business deals with other countries, especially in the West. Let's talk about Europe, about the United States, about China for that matter. The importance of Africa playing a central role, not only sending things, but also buying things from the US, from Europe. I think it's so important for us as Africans that if we can become more self-sustaining, as I mentioned previously, but also maintaining the relationships with the rest of the world, especially the so-called first world countries.
Collaboration. For me, everything is about collaboration. Not only in trade, of course, we have to trade and to sell, but collaboration also in terms of research, in terms of education, in terms of everything. You mentioned the US. US is, of course, the most powerful country in the world to get from now. And we already have some relationship with the US and the diaspora. Diaspora is something really important for me because I'm part of the diaspora and I truly believe that diaspora have a key role to play in the African civil society. And there is a big African diaspora in the US in the key position, not just a small job, they are also in the key position. And And there is also a lot of US people in the continent and loving the continent, working for the continent. I guess we just need to push this collaboration and to make it more efficient and to make it has a real cooperation in terms of education, in terms of trade, in terms of innovation, in terms of research, all the things, and try to find a way that this cooperation um, uh, benefit to both of us.
Yeah, I think important it's mutually benefits Africa as well as the rest of the world. Abdou Samb, thank you so much for your time. It's been really insightful listening to your thoughts, and we hope the next time you're in South Africa we can have a longer interview and unpack some of these issues.
Thank you very much.
To our viewers out there, I hope you enjoyed this interview. I think it's really, really important topics and points mentioned by Mr. Abdou Samd. And, as South Africans, with the G20 coming up later this year and all the events surrounding the G20, like the C20, the M20, it's so important for us as South Africans to take in all the knowledge and take in all the guests that are coming into the country, because they can play such a big role for us as South Africans, but as well as Africa, as we try to move out into the new world, as into a new Africa, as we mentioned previously. And I think it's so important that Africa becomes one of the most self-sustaining continents around. We're going to take a short break now, so stay tuned.